The planet of Mawan has been decimated by war and the resulting chaos. The population has taken refuge underground, while 3 greedy crime lords battle over food and fuel on the planet's surface. Only one group has a chance at securing peace: the Jedi. But what if there's something even more sinister behind the chaos? What if the planet is really a trap, with many innocent lives held in the balance? What if, in order to save Mawan, a Jedi must die?
Recording, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, younglings, and welcome back to the Padawan Library. If you doubted us, I don't think anybody actually doubted us that we'd be back. I think maybe you and I doubted ourselves that we would be back. But
listen, we're back on the day we said we'd be back, so...
right.
For most of you, you're like, oh, it's back, cool, it came back in my feed, great. But listen, we promised 2 bonus episodes that never came, and I'll say we recorded one of them.
We did record the one.
By the way, you're Levi Paratic, I'm Tim May.
And this is the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast, if you're joining us for the first time.
Of course, I'm sorry to, although it's weird if you're jumping in the middle of Jedi Quest. I guess,
right, Jedi Quest number 6.
But, yeah, so... Anyway, but we did record one of those bonus episodes, our Mandalorian episode.
We sure did. We had a great conversation about it.
We had a great conversation.
Good hour and a half conversation about it.
We talked about Mandalorian. And I listed my favorite films of the year. I think my top 40 favorite movies of the year or something.
Yeah, we definitely did. You missed it. You didn't miss it.
And your favorite movies and everything. So you missed another heated argument. It wasn't nearly as bad as the other one, but
it got heated.
It got a little bit heated.
The water got close to boiling.
Some dubious things were said, but we don't. Guess what? You're never going to hear it because my side of the audio got so fucked up. It's just and I was just like, you know what? To fix this, it would I'm not going to put the work. and also, we had a huge argument. I was like, you know what? I don't know how much of an appetite our fans have for another argument about the same movie.
They don't.
That's not a Star Wars movie. You know what I mean? So, it seems silly. So, whatever. That didn't happen, and then we never really scheduled the big draft episode. We're gonna still do the big Senate draft.
Yes, that's happening.
We're doing. We can just announce at least the next several episodes.
Yes.
But we're doing Jedi Quest 6 today, 7 next week, 8 the following week, and then we're going to do the 3rd Jedi Prince book. And my brother Dan's going to come back on, and he will participate in the Senate draft on that episode. Are you okay? Are you dropping something crazy?
I was looking to see the title of the third Jedi Prince book, and I just...
Isn't it like Zorba the Hutt's Revenge?
Oh, it is Zorba the Hutt's Revenge.
Yeah, I just ordered it. Hopefully it'll be here soon. Anyway, so... Yes, so we're we're going to have Dan back on for that episode, and he'll be participating in the draft with us. So we're going to... that'll be a fun one. Definitely look forward to that. That'll be the end of this month, I guess. So, but yeah, sorry. How was your break? Did you enjoy your break?
I kept productive on my break. Very productive.
Yes,
I was working on a project.
On another project of ours that's completely unrelated to the show.
Completely unrelated, but yeah. We're just as equally involved in this project as well. And,
I have to talk to you about something related to that.
Oh, okay.
Off air.
Okay.
I'll mention it during the break. But, so yeah, and, listen, the last time we talked for the audience was right after Rise of Skywalker came out.
Right. I should mention during the break I became obsessed with Little Women. Every movie adaptation of Little Women I watched
I'm
and
proud
saw.
Of you. I'm proud of you for that. The fans missed our great conversation about Little Women that we recorded during our Mandalorian / Best Movies of the Year thing, because you hadn't seen the new Little Women yet. I mentioned on that show, and there might be a time for us to talk at length about Little Women in the future.
I think so. I
don't want to get too deep into it, but I had mentioned on that episode that Little Women's very important to me. I grew up. My family's all from New England, and so I've been to the Alcott House like 2 or 3 times, and I read the book as a young person, and so it means a lot to me. And the new movie is one of the best things that's ever existed. So
I agree. It's the best. I haven't read the book, but of all the movies, it's the best one. So
it's also the best adaptation for this fan of the book. So listen. So that's a great movie that we can both agree on. Our fans must be so happy for us.
They're agreeing again.
Listen,
5 minutes in and they're agreeing.
Listen, Star Wars is like the thing that we agree completely on almost all the time, so it's very funny. It's funny that's what we decided to do a podcast about. But anyway, yeah. So the last time we talked on mic for the audience was right after Rise of Skywalker came out, and even on that Lost bonus episode, we didn't really talk any further about it. And I don't want to get into Rise of Skywalker really in any depth today.
Yeah,
I'll say this:
I've seen it a second time.
I have not. No, I have
okay.
not. Well, first of all, there were a lot of movies I had to catch up on after. I actually haven't seen a movie in a while, but I had to see Uncut Gems. I had to see Little Women. I had to see Cats, which was a mistake.
We had such a Cats discussion.
We had such a big Cats discussion. Listen, you're missing out on the greatness of that bonus episode. Your half of it is completely fine. So we could just release your half of the conversation, and you could guess what I said. I guess that's possible. But anyway. All right, so this our return's off to a great start.
Let me ask you this, because this is a question I've been meaning to ask you. Right now it's kind of a slow point for movies. Not a whole lot coming out of the theater right now.
Right.
The next movie you're going to see, I want to see if it's the same movie I'm going to go see. Is the next movie you're going to the theater to see Sonic the Hedgehog?
I will be seeing that.
I will be seeing Sonic the Hedgehog.
I hate Sonic. I like the first 3 games. They're fun games. So don't come after me. I know those are good games. But I never have cared about Sonic. He never mattered to me in any real way. I found the fan base obnoxious, and I know we host a Star Wars podcast. But but yeah, it was just never my thing, really. But I have a lot of friends who are huge Sonic fans. Some of them friends of the show, Brooke, for example. But listen, there are 2 of my friends, Chris and Michelle, who are 2 of my absolute closest friends. Mm-hmm. And they love Sonic the Hedgehog. And they've been dreading this movie for years. And and it comes out on Valentine's Day. They're married. And
I didn't realize it was Valentine's Day.
And yeah, February 14th. They're married. Thankfully, their anniversary is a few days after Valentine's Day. So they don't really celebrate Valentine's Day that hard, and I've convinced them that for Valentine's Day they're going to go with me to see Sonic the Hedgehog. So it will be a delight. It's going to be a fun time.
I agree.
I don't know if it's
looking fun in it. Marsden looks fun in it.
Yeah, Marsden. I every time I would text Michelle about this movie coming up, I was like, "Aren't you excited about Hollywood hunk James Marsden?"
He's so underrated.
He's such a Hollywood hunk.
Like, he is.
It's true. Anyway, so listen, I don't know if it's the next movie I'm seeing. I still may eventually get around to Bad Boys for Life because those are the only.
I heard that was good.
And those are the only Michael Bay movies I have any time for. I like the first one a lot. The second one is repugnant. Hopefully, hopefully this one's better. I don't know. I heard Michael Bay has a cameo in it though, and that's
I didn't hear that.
So that's hilarious to me. So.
I'll be seeing that, and then I'll probably go see the Impractical Jokers movie if that comes to the theater near me.
God,
I will probably go see that.
So classic you. That's so funny. And yeah, I mean, have fun. No shots. Whatever.
I definitely want to go to Impractical Jokers opening night because I want to see the crowd that shows up for Impractical Jokers. That's what I'm most excited about.
Oh yeah,
the
crowd's going to be wild.
What the fan base looks like.
Our friend of the show, Sam McCauley, is also very excited.
I bet he is.
He's been trying to convince Brooke to go for the last week, and Brooke's just like, I'm not going to that.
Brooke will have a good time.
Yeah, Brooke would have a great time. Listen, he's wrong.
The Jokers are wholesome, in my opinion. I like the Jokers. They're good quality family fun.
Not like another Joker I know. The super fucked up Joker. Anyway.
Should we talk about The Mandalorian a little bit?
Yeah, we should. We're not going to have a full conversation about it. It's been too long.
No,
you all
it's
are probably
the same. We've all forgotten about the details at this point. I just know that I like The Mandalorian, and I think it's one of the best things Disney's made Star Wars wise.
Listen, I don't just like The Mandalorian. I love it. I think it's great. It's my favorite Star Wars thing in a very long time.
Say it's the best Star Wars thing in how many years you said before on the last episode?
Well, at that time it was 14 years. Now it'd be 15.
Now it's 15 years. Yep, best
Jesus.
Star Wars in 15
May
years.
May 19th, man. 15 years since Revenge of the Sith.
God. Oh my Lord.
Jesus, we are ancient. We both say neither of us are 30 yet, so we should chill out, I guess. But yeah, no, Mandalorian's great, and everything that's been said about it probably could be said, and I have a slightly new angle from what we talked about on our last episode, which is a show that just started is Star Trek Picard, which I've been watching and has been very good. I like it a lot. We're recording this on Tuesday. I've not seen the third episode that aired yesterday for the listeners, but. And I've been enjoying it a lot, but it's like very much a serialized kind of modern television style of storytelling, which is very at odds with how classic Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation was, which was very completely and totally episodic. Now, Mandalorian's not 100% episodic, but it's a lot closer to that. It's closer to that model, and I'm enjoying Picard a lot, and like there's a lot of it that I'm really intrigued by, and I'm very excited about it. But Mandalorian, it almost feels more like classic Star Trek than Star Trek Picard, which is, hey, I just thought that was notable and a fun observation on the part of me.
I'm trying to think what else to even say about it, but it was just like, I know the bullet points were that we talked about was just how cool the Mandalorian is, how cool it's all original characters, which is dope. The music's dope. You can listen to every episode soundtrack on iTunes.
I've been listening to those every day on the way to school. It's just so good. I love it.
And I've talked to two people who have watched The Mandalorian who aren't necessarily Star Wars fans, who have loved The Mandalorian. So,
I think it's the most, universe, the highest approval rating for a Star Wars thing. And, this does not mean it's my favorite since then, but it's the highest approval rating any Star Wars project has had probably since Return of the Jedi. I think, it's just, people love it. I've not met someone who's like, you know what, I didn't like it that much. Everybody likes it, so... maybe I'm sure there are people that are just never going to like anything that Disney makes,
right?
But
fair.
I try not to we can talk about a broader criticism of Disney, but I try not to interact with that type of Star Wars fan too often because they're mostly bad people. So you know what I mean? It usually is indicative of something else. It's not a corporate distrust, which would be reasonable and respectable, because they have their own corporate overlords they love. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It usually has something to do with something else. So,
Speaking of the corporate overlords, since we've recorded our Lost episode and our Rise of Skywalker episode, we've had many leaks out of Lucasfilm.
Oh, I don't want to...
Are you a person who believes that Disney is actually the ones who's leaking these things just to gauge public opinion?
Depends on what it is. I do not think the Trevorrow script was leaked by Disney. I think and listen, the Trevorrow script sounds awful too. I'm sorry, listen, I think we were maybe a little light on Rise of Skywalker, although we were still pretty critical of it. I don't like that movie. It's not good.
Right. Worst Star Wars movie.
You know who's really bad at making movies? Colin Trevorrow.
Colin Trevorrow, yeah.
Who's a lot worse at making movies than J.J. Abrams? Colin Trevorrow.
Colin Trevorrow,
So if it was a disaster with Abrams, it would have been a disaster. This is also a draft from before Carrie Fisher died.
Right.
So it's it's not even what would have been made with him. So there's a lot of I think there's and a lot of the ideas make me more mad than some of the stuff in Rise of Skywalker. The idea of Kylo Ren not being redeemed, I think is
that makes no sense. I feel like he had to have been redeemed.
Yeah.
The ideas that I like from it are Coruscant, and we're going to Coruscant and the Jedi Temple.
But some of the setting concepts and stuff that was fun. I'm not saying there was nothing that I would have liked to see, but I also just think that people think they know what these scripts will be like, and they don't. Even on our piddly scale, the script for something and the final product are two very different things. Mm-hmm. We've made movies, not Star Wars movies, but we're talking about things that are written and then shot within, at most a month. You know what I'm talking about? Short films. And, even then, they transform radically over that period. We're talking about one of the biggest franchises in the world, a script that was written at least 2 years before production would have started.
Mm-hmm.
It was not going to be the movie. Just chill out, everybody. That's what I say about that.
Well, I know also something, too. There was, Kylo Ren was, this is just from what I've read. I haven't sat and read Duel of the Fates.
Is the script itself even online, or is it just a summary of the script by some guy on YouTube?
Well, who knows? First off, Duel of the Fates, I love that song. Don't love that as a title.
No.
Not that Rise of Skywalker makes any sense in the context of the movie. They don't explain that at all.
Whatever, you know what I mean.
I know at one point Kylo Ren would have gone to Vader's castle and received a holocron message from Sheev, who would have told, it was basically the idea was when Sheev died, it was for Vader, for what Vader to do afterwards. And so the idea was Vader was supposed to go meet with Sheev's master, who is not Darth Plagueis in this script. It is a weird,
worse.
It's a crazy spider creature. So Kylo Ren goes and learns the dark side from this weird ass spider creature.
So Shelob from Lord of the Rings, get out of here. Listen,
yeah, that's a terrible idea.
I'm just saying, people think they know what they want after they see what they don't want, but they don't. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you, if you had described Rise of Skywalker just in the highlight reel to someone a year before it came out, a lot of these same people would have been like, "That sounds cool." You know what I mean? It's a lot of it is the execution. The movie is insanely fast paced, and it doesn't work. I'm not saying a lot of the ideas are also stupid, but a lot of the ideas in the Duel of the Fates script are very stupid too. So like, let's just move on, is what I say to all this. Like, God, who cares? I love Star Wars, and I have to say, coming back to the show, I was like, I'm a little burnt on Star Wars right now. But reading this book did reignite me a little bit, I gotta say.
It did me too.
And as far as the other leak, which I'm assuming you're talking about the Star Wars Underworld footage, I think that's more likely to be a Disney thing.
Oh, yeah. Because I know that there's rumors going around that they want to do a Vader show. Yeah. Like something involving Vader, and I know that when that footage came out, something that was
by the way, like if you don't know, there was footage from the
show that George started developing immediately after Revenge of the Sith.
And they announced and supposedly there's 50 completed scripts for episodes, and it takes place after episode 3. It's called would have been called Underworld, and that was in development. This footage is from 2010.
I think so, yeah.
So they were developing it for 5 years, which is insane. And they had like some great writers on it, like Ronald D. Moore, and I think Jane Espenson worked on it. But so like fantastic like genre TV writers, and always something I wanted. The footage itself is just test footage, you know. But.
Yeah, the footage is test footage. It's surprising that we had no clue that this footage existed until now.
I mean, it's very much test footage. Like the actual it's not not finished or treated at all. It's looks like something you'd shoot on a camcorder, but it's mostly an effects reel. I mean, it's oh look, the environments, do they look good? They do. You know,
yep.
So
this is it looks like Coruscant. So I know the plot of what was going on, because it's they have Star Destroyer plans. I know something was being said that the episode would have revolved around Vader coming to Coruscant, descending to the lower levels of Coruscant, and then personally hunting down this rebellion that was forming, which would have been very exciting to see. So I feel like if Disney had leaked that, and that rumor is true that they want a Vader TV series, that maybe, because I know also too Kathleen Kennedy has acknowledged those scripts before and said, yeah, we'll figure something to do with them. So what if maybe they are actually developing that series?
I would love to see that series at some point. I always thought it was weird that they had this stuff lying around.
I know, right?
I mean, I assume it would be kind of reworked. 50 episodes is a lot to commit to. That's a weird model that George developed. Clone Wars was developed the same way. They wrote most of the first few seasons, I think, before production began, or something crazy. So, but this, no, I mean, I think that's maybe more likely to be a leak from Disney. I think something like the Trevorrow script, I don't see why they would think that would make them look good at all. You know,
right? It would be weird to do that.
Yeah, so I think that's more likely to. I don't even think that it came from anyone in Trevorrow's camp, really. I don't think he works for Kathleen Kennedy's husband, Frank Marshall, produces the Jurassic Park movies. Why would he want? You know what I mean?
I know he would want to screw himself.
So I doubt it came from him. I think it's just. I know he confirmed that it's real, but that's after the fact. I'm sure there are. Here's the thing, and the thing with the Obi-Wan series that everybody freaked out about. Every single production step of these movies is going to be reported. You know, the Obi-Wan thing, everyone freaked out about this, and I'm like, oh, you mean way before, at least 6 months before production on a television show started, they hired a new writer? That's the story. That was the whole story, and I was like, how is this, anything people are freaking out about? It's not,
It's just like the reshoots with Rogue One. It just everybody got it all
that was much more serious, I would think.
That was way more serious.
Yeah, but because they haven't even started shooting on this thing yet. I'm not saying that nothing bad, that they're not scrambling at all. But this happens on all these kinds of projects. Relax. That I'm not saying it's going to be great. Who knows? It might be a disaster. But I don't know. Let's all chill out. About all this stuff, please. This is what made me. It was not Rise of Skywalker that made me exhausted with Star Wars. It was just everything surrounding all of it. The discourse about Star Wars is terrible. We all know this, but we all can't look away when there's a new Star Wars thing. We're like, what do people think? We shouldn't care. You and I should talk. We should talk to people we know, and that should be it. I hope our fans enjoy us, and I'm not saying stop listening to the podcast, but like, it's just, it gets very exhausting, and like, I gotta say, deep diving back into Star Trek for the last month has been a relief, because it's one of the only things I'm really obsessed with, and I am not in communication with any online. I'm sure the online Trek fans are awful. I'm sure they are. Everybody is, apparently. But, it's just one of the things I really, like, done a good job of completely tunnel visioning myself for my entire life away from that fan base. And even though I love Star Trek, but, like, so I need to just train myself to do that with Star Wars. That's what I need.
Well, I will tell you this, on the second watch of Rise of Skywalker, which is when I realized there are no wipes in the movie, which is a disgrace.
When
there
you
are no
pointed
wipes.
that out, I was like, yeah, you're right. There aren't.
There's 0 wipes. 0. But something... If Dominic Monaghan in the movie is just playing Charlie from Lost, I realized. Because there's this hilarious line, I don't know the line exactly, from Poe, where he says something about how, like, Emperor Palpatine is alive. And every time
where he's just like, somehow Emperor Palpatine is alive or something.
It makes me laugh every time. But then Dominic Monaghan goes, in his most Charlie-like way, oh, like... that dark science, that cloning, and it's like, whoa, we're just making broad assumptions here.
Listen, we talked, you guys can go back if you missed our Rise of Skywalker review, we talked a lot about it. It's not on YouTube, so if you listen to us on YouTube, go check out our feed if you're still up for anyone talking about that fucking movie in February. But, But my point being that, like, even though I think it's easily my least favorite Star Wars movie ever, it did not really kill a lot of my enthusiasm about Star Wars. Mm-hmm. First of all, because Mandalorian wrapped up the next week, so that kind of was like, oh,
it made up for it. It totally made up for it.
And, and then I just took a break, and, I'm excited about Clone Wars coming back soon. We probably won't be talking about that much on the show, I'd imagine.
No, because my watching has stalled around season 4, especially now that I've picked up a new show, The Sopranos.
Oh my god, listen, my heart is growing so many sizes because you're watching The Sopranos. Listen, guys, we're catching up a little bit. We've talked online, but we have not had an extended conversation, so this episode's going to be pretty loose. Let's relax. Listen, I have been trying to get you to watch The Sopranos for years, many years, and you've always been like, I'll get to it, and I was just like, you need to do it. And then finally, Brooke watched The Sopranos, and he's also been on you, so now it's been a two-sided attack, so you feel like obligated, I guess.
Yes. Well, I felt, I guess, obligated, especially because I was trying to get some files from Brooke, and I was afraid if I didn't start the show, he may withhold the files from me. So I was like, I better appease him and start it. So I've started, I'm almost through season 1. I think I'm on episode 10, actually, nice. Very much enjoying the show. So
Gandolfini, man.
Oh, he's so good. It's the only show I know it's your like number 1 show, and Mad Men is your number 2 show, and it's the only show I've ever encountered that's like Mad Men. So
Mad Men is a direct descendant of The Sopranos.
Yep.
Wait till you get to the later seasons when Weiner was writing for it. Like, you'll feel so many Mad Men vibes. You're gonna be like, I can't believe it. Anyway, not to make this into a Sopranos podcast, but watch The Sopranos if you haven't. It's great. So, regardless, Clone Wars is coming back. I'm excited about that. And this book excited me again. But, like, I rewatched Rogue One, a movie I don't like. People know this. I still don't like it. But the last 45 minutes are still pretty great and very fun to watch. And I was like, that was good. That felt good. And then I rewatched the original Star Wars.
Oh shit! Keep going on. But there's something I want to talk about. I don't want to bring it back to Rise of Skywalker, but I'm going to bring it back to Rise of Skywalker.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. But I rewatched the original Star Wars, and listen, we've talked about this before. We talked about it in our very first episode. It's the best Star Wars movie. These people And listen, I know that many of our fans probably like Empire, some of them probably like Revenge of the Sith, or even The Phantom Menace. I don't know. Or even, Force Awakens. I doubt anybody who listens to this show, probably. But maybe. I don't know. So, and that's fine. That's all well and good. But the original Star Wars is the best Star Wars movie. It is so fucking exciting. Like, still, it's crazy. Like, it's just like every single moment of it is, like, huge. You're like, this, like, every moment of it created a show like this that we're doing right now. Every second of it is iconic. It's crazy how mythic it is, and none of the other movies, none of them have ever matched it on that level. Like, it's just crazy how good it is. It's ridiculous. The trench run is like the best action scene ever. And I know that this is obvious to two guys who host a Star Wars podcast and have loved Star Wars their whole lives, but sometimes it's worth just getting excited about it again. And, and it's just like, it did get me in the right frame of mind to come back to the show, I have to say.
Well, good. I find every time I watch that movie, the destruction of Alderaan gets me more and more every time.
And people will be like, oh, well, they don't, like, dwell on it. I was like, that's what makes it, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, it's so, like...
And the cutting to Obi-Wan after that, feeling the disturbance, and that's all you need. It's all you need.
An incredible movie. Just, it's what I've said a lot on this show, which is, it is first and foremost just a great movie. Like, yes, it's a great universe. Yes, we all like the expanded universe. We're going to talk about Jedi Quest number 6, The Shadow Trap, later. But it's just a great... You know what it started with? One really great movie. That's what it is. It's, and honestly, if every other Star Wars product could ever be erased, we would still have an incredible movie. That's all I'm saying.
We sure would. All right, bringing this back to Rise. So when I watched it again, my opinion, my Letterboxd rating did not change on my second watch. I still gave it 2.5 stars.
Yes.
There's things I like about this movie. There's things I don't like about this movie.
I'd probably bump mine down to 2.5. I think I give it 3.
Yeah.
It's being nicer.
But here's something that I want to talk about. It's something I wonder if you've thought of. All right. Remember the line in Last Jedi where Luke says, after Rey goes, she goes to the dark side kind of thing in the meditation, and he goes, I've only seen power like this once before, and it didn't scare me enough then. Who do you think he's talking about there?
Kylo?
That's what I thought. But what if he's talking about Sheev? And that he sees that in Rey, and then he knows that,
That's a real workaround. I don't love it. Because I still I'm never going to like Sheev and Rey being related. It
makes no sense. It still makes so...
they're never going to get to a point where I'll feel good about it.
Who are all the people in the Colosseum? This, like, Sith Colosseum when she... Who are those folks?
This is the problem with Abrams when he's indulging in his worst tendencies. Which is, he probably saw that concept art and was like, that's cool. And he's right. It is cool. It's cool. I look at it and I'm like, cool. But you know what else it is? Meaningless. It doesn't make any sense.
Confusing as shit.
It's a great image to throw in, some Art of Star Wars book or something, but that's all it should have been. So, it's like, I think the Emperor hooked up all the tubes. I'm like, oh, that's like a cool image. But it's like nothing more than that. And I remember when we watched the trailer for Rise of Skywalker on this show, I remember talking, and I stand by this, that J.J. Abrams is a great image maker. And I do think he is that. But he has other talents, too, I do believe he does, that he utilized not at all in this movie. The only talents he utilized for the most... I'm exaggerating a little bit, but and then also, the editing kind of hurts a lot of what he's doing.
It also feels like, all right, so he did the first movie. I don't want to say he did the first movie reluctantly, but he did the first movie. But it's like he has to come back for a third movie, and he's just like, I guess I'm here for the paycheck. The same level of heart and care is not in the movie.
Yeah, I think, probably you guys can go listen to us talk about this for an hour and a half. It was just I just think that he was uniquely qualified to make this what it was. In that, like, whatever, like, he very understandably had some issues with Last Jedi, and I think people maybe are too hard on him over that. Like, Last Jedi does kind of be like, I don't really like what you did in Force Awakens, and kind of moves away from that stuff. So I get it. But he was uniquely qualified to come in and make this even more of a, like, thematic clusterfuck. Because he's like, but I like what I did there, so he has to, like... Whereas if a third person came in, they could either discard both of them or try to unite them more. And, like...
It's like the only things that unite that, like, you can... The only thing, like, that seems valued from Last Jedi is the training of Rey on Ahch-To, and that the fact that the Force connection between Rey
is like are the best scenes in Rise of Skywalker.
I agree.
I agree,
100%.
So even though the dumbest reveal in the movie happens during one of those scenes, but it's like the two actors sell it. What can I say? Adam Driver should win the Oscar on Sunday, by the way, please.
I agree. I think it's his time. Who do you think will win?
Joaquin.
Okay.
He's won every precursor.
I really
and I love Joaquin,
but
I wish he would won like 5 years ago for the
I'm so you know what, and I'm one of those people that's really bothered by the snubbing of Sandler and J-Lo.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Well, first off, I love Laura Dern. Laura Dern is America's sweetheart, but Laura Dern does not deserve a nomination for playing the divorce lawyer in Marriage Story over J-Lo and Hustlers.
Well, she's going to win, so get over it.
No, I don't think she will either, but I don't think she should be there.
No, I'm saying she's going to win. Get over it. Like,
you think...
is winning. For sure she's going to win. And I love Laura Dern. She is my absolute queen, and if I had to pick her or J-Lo to save their life, I would pick Laura Dern every time, and that's not a shot at J-Lo. But I would also vote for J-Lo's performance over that performance. But I think she's great in Marriage Story. Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, well, I can complain more about the Oscars.
The Oscars
the whole
are bad.
Little Women snub.
It's disgraceful.
Terrible.
Little Women should win. But yeah, like, or Parasite would be fine too. Or, or the movie that must not be named I love also would be fine with that. But as far as, like, the fact that 1917 seems like it's going to win, not a movie I've seen, so I'm not going to complain about it, but it seems very boring for it to win. So that's all I'll say. Moving on from the Oscars, moving on from Rise of Skywalker. Listen, we've been talking for about 35 minutes and 22 seconds, right?
Yeah, 35 minutes and 27 seconds is where I'm at right now.
Good!
All right.
We're good. At least the first half will not be screwed up. So, anyway, we should probably wrap up the intro here and get into the book. When we come back, we're going to return to Jude Watson's wonderful world of Jedi Quest. Mm-hmm. You excited about this?
Oh, I'm very excited about this.
All right, so the Shadow Trap coming up right after the break. Stay tuned.
Bye.
Welcome back to Padawan Library. I'm Tim May, here, as always, with Levi Paratic.
Hello.
So, before we get into the book, we forgot one other thing. You designed some sort of a game for us.
I did come up with a game. This is a real quick guessing game we're going to do. I don't have a fun name for this, but this is Planet or City Jedi Quest Edition. So I'm going to give you the name, and these are all from the books we've read so far. This is only from the first 6 Jedi Quest books. I'm going to give you the name of a planet or a city, and you have to tell me if it's a planet or a city. All right?
This is a disaster. I have an exam tomorrow in a class, and this is going to be much harder than that exam.
Well, it's like every book has a planet, and then we land in, like, the capital city of this planet, and that's how... Okay. So I'm going to say... All right, here we go. Ilum.
City.
Planet.
Is there a city that's on that planet?
No. That's the planet where the crystal cave is, where Anakin saw Darth Maul. All right. All right. Here we go. Here we go again. Euceron. Euceron. Euceron.
Planet.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, that's from the Dangerous Games. That's where the Galactic Games were held.
Yes, I remember that. I love that one.
All right, here we go. Tacto. Tacto. Tacto, or Tacto.
Ooh. Definitely, if this was a sequel trilogy book, that would be a planet.
Is that your final answer?
I'm gonna say it's a city.
Oh, it's a city.
Yes!
It is the capital city of Randor from Way of the Apprentice.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. I got two more. Utare. Utare. Utare.
I'm gonna say planet.
That Utare is the capital city of Andorra, which is from School of Fear. That's where the school is.
Listen, I was checked out by the time we did that book. I needed the break very badly.
That book was good, though.
Oh, it was good. I remember thinking it was very good. But yes, I wasn't going to retain those sorts of details.
All right, this is the last one. Hariden, planet or city? Haariden. Hariden.
City.
Planet.
Jesus.
It's from Master of Disguise. I will tell you though, the capital of Hariden is Tenuri. Tenuri. I
was very proud of that sequel trilogy sounding one that I got right.
Tacto.
That joke, it's such a good joke.
It made the whole game worth it. So.
Okay. All right. So anyway, this book, The Shadow Trap, it has now been about 2 months since we talked about Jedi Quest. So, for those of you just tuning in again, if you remember, the last book was The School of Fear,
right.
And it ended with Anakin, with Obi-Wan being disappointed in Anakin about something, and I'm honestly
because Fergus disappeared, and Anakin didn't bother to go look for him.
Yes.
Yeah, Anakin didn't even bother to go look. Anakin was just like, "Well, screw him."
Yeah. So Obi-Wan's mad at him about that. That hangs over this book.
Yes.
That's all you need to know from the previous book, really. And we all know about.
Grano Omega.
Grano Omega, and who's the big villain of the series. And we got a lot to talk about in regards to Granto Omega. So let's jump in. We're way too far into this episode.
Yeah. All right. I took my notes completely differently this week. I took my notes in the book itself.
That's good, because I took no notes. And,
okay.
And listen, I promise I will pick up the note-taking slack. But listen, I just finished the book about 2 minutes before we started recording. So,
all right.
I have it. It's fresh in my mind. Is my point.
It's very fresh. I finished this book today as well. So, the first thing we're introduced with is Anakin's at the temple, and Anakin's been having a vision he's had 3 times already. And I'm going to read what the vision is, because this is important. This is on page 3, if you're following along at home. The vision came, and the peaceful scene before him fell away. The rushing water... Oh, he's in the garden, by the way. He's near the water...
The room of
thousand
fountains is now what they call it here.
Yes.
Which I feel like is different from what it was before.
Yeah, it does seem a little different, because there's also no mention of this is where, Brooke Chun died either.
Well, they might not want to tip their hand too much.
Yeah. Which, when this scene was happening, I was like, oh shit, is that going to happen? Is he going to have a vision of Brooke Chun? But he has another vision. All right. The rushing water became the rush of air, so intense that it hurt his ears. Images came and went so quickly they were like pulses of light. A massive fleet at his command. A revolt of hundreds of slaves as they shouted his name, striding through the dusty streets of Mos Espa and reaching the door of his old home. The images stopped and froze only once, his mother's face as he clasped her against him. He touched the slave cuffs at her wrist, and they fell to the floor. He heard a clang, and then there was an explosion of light and sorrow. He knew that he had lost Shmi. He had lost, in fact, everybody he loved, including Obi-Wan. The one below remains below.
Bars!
So from here, he is like, all right, this is the third time I've had this vision. I better go tell Obi-Wan. He tells Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's, we better go tell Yoda. And Yoda is already actually So Obi-Wan was already in the garden. Yoda's already walking up, and this is where Yoda drops a frickin' bomb on us. God. So remember how in the previous books there was some mention of the fact that Jedi Master Yaddle had been imprisoned for multiple centuries?
Yes.
Well, guess what? She had a nickname while she was being imprisoned, and it was the One Below.
Oh, God.
So
hard. That is one of the hardest nicknames.
I know, the One Below. So anyway, Yoda says, well, Yaddle's about to go on a mission, and I know just who to send with her. You guys are going. So from there, our Jedi team of Yaddle, Obi-Wan, and Anakin, they get sent to Mawan, and Mawan was a once beautiful planet. The capital city of Mawan is Natan, if you're following along for whenever we do city or planet Jedi Quest Part 2.
Yeah, I was annoyed you didn't include any of that. You said from the first 6 books, I was like, well, I'll at least get this one right.
Well, I was counting the book 0 as the 6th book, you know.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yeah.
Wait, Leia.
Okay. Clear. Wait, Leia. So anyway, Natan, about 10 years ago, fell into a civil war, and basically all structure of government has collapsed, and the planet is now under the control of 3 warlords. And these 3 warlords are known as Stryker, who nobody knows his identity.
Who is Stryker? This is the question Stryker? We'll be asking the whole episode.
Yeah, yep. And then the other one is Decca the Hutt, and she apparently is the daughter of Gardola the Hutt.
Gardola the legend, you mean?
Who, if you don't know who Gardola is, go back, watch episode 1. Gardola gets mentioned, my dudes. And then the third one is Fianna Tala, and she seems like she's the one good one of the crime lords because she is from Mawan, and she controls the goods of the planet. Meanwhile, Stryker controls weapons and speeders, but Decca controls like the fuel or something like that. There's like these 3 bosses, kind of like the Sopranos. You know, bosses,
Jackie Aprile, and
Junior, and Tony, and all these other people. And then we have.
I wish there was an Uncle Junior-like character in Star Wars. Don't you?
I do too.
I feel like there needs. Get Dominic Chianese. He's still alive. Get him. He should be in the next Star Wars
with
show.
those huge ass glasses too.
Yes.
Oh, there's one episode where they do a flashback with young Tony, and whoever they cast as Junior was like a young Junior. He was so spot on. It was insane how well he was
crazy.
cast.
Oh my God.
And then we get some characters here, too. One of their guides is a character by the name of Urana.
Is it Urana?
Yeah, and she doesn't actually is not important to the story at all.
Let's not even profile her.
Yeah, but she introduces them to tunnel workers, Swanee and Rourke. And Swanee and Rourke are
do you think
basically...
Rourke is like Mickey Rourke? Okay.
Maybe.
I need to get some water.
I like the name Swanee. You get water. I'll continue.
You can just keep going. We'll
so,
make it.
So whenever the Civil War happened and the collapse of society happened, most of the citizens of Mawan, they moved into the underground tunnels, the utility tunnels. And this is when the power kind of switched, because before, the tunnel workers, the people who were controlling the water and the electric, they were the lowest beings on the chain, whereas the rich and high and mighty were the top. But when it all collapsed, everything fell on the tunnel workers. So the tunnel workers are kind of holding society together while the crime lords reign above. And the tunnel workers also, which is what's kind of confusing here, is the tunnel workers allow for markets to be set up for the people of Mawan, but they're taking payment from these crime lords. So that's a little suspect that they're taking payment from these guys.
I wanted to say about Swanee and Rourke. They're the two fucks. You remember the three fucks from Jedi Apprentice?
I do remember the three.
These are the two fucks.
And I think they're a little more fun than the three fucks, in my opinion.
I enjoyed the three fucks too, though. But yeah.
Did you? I don't remember you enjoying them.
Maybe
I
more.
remember you adamantly hating them.
Did I hate them? I don't know.
I don't know.
You know what? Hey, I hated Phantom Menace once too. It's fine.
Yeah. So anyway, chapter 2.
Fucks.
Yeah. So chapter 2 ends with so they've all been briefed on the mission. This is where they decide what they're going to do. So Yaddle is taking it upon herself to get the power grid back working. So the whole point of the mission is for the Senate to come in, Senate forces to come in, and basically reestablish government. Take the crime lords out of the mix and get Mawan back on track.
So basically,
yeah, go.
I'll take over. I know I didn't take notes, but I got this. Listen, Obi-Wan is sent to handle both, what are the other two crime lords' names?
Strike, well...
Not Striker.
Yeah,
Filani?
Oh, crap. Yeah, hang on. I'll just go with her last name. Tala. Fianna Tala. And Decca the Hutt.
Yeah, so he goes and is able to at least nominally get them, or negotiate with them to go along with Jedi to move these people back up above ground. Is that fair? That's what happens? Yeah. We don't need to go over a detail of that. And then who's the big person, though, that's going to be the hardest one is Stryker, right? Striker's the big one.
Well, I mean, and if we get to whatever her name is, boy, I wish I had actually written notes down, not in, like, on a notebook, so I could just look for this name. The Fianna Talia. Fianna. She quickly is turned to their side. She wants amnesty, once government takes over. She wants a position of power, and Obi-Wan more than agrees to that. Decca the Hutt, this is one of the silliest scenes in the book. They need to get into her compound, and Swanee and Rourke, we're also musicians.
Oh yeah,
and we perform sometimes at Decca the Hutt's place.
What's their name of their band again?
Oh, okay, hang on, let me get it out of here because I wrote. Swanee and the Rooters.
Oh, Swanee and the Rooters are definitely like opening for like Dave in 1997, and you know what I mean by Dave. Matthews Band. Yeah,
that's what I thought. There's a line here that I thought was really funny. It's on page 41. Swanee winked, "Wastewater is my life, but music is a close second."
Oh. Wastewater, speaking of Dave Matthews Band, you know about that?
No, I don't.
That's a hilarious story where it was they were probably not even there, but like their tour bus in Chicago, they were crossing a bridge and they dumped the waste from the tour bus. Like,
oh, Lord.
They dumped it and it fell on a ferry full of people crossing under the bridge.
Jude, obviously a huge Dave Matthews fan. Jude,
oh my god. And they got sued so much, and I mean they donated a shitload of money to like water pollution stuff and everything. But it's just so funny. It's just one of the funniest stories of all time. I think about it daily.
So Obi-Wan and Anakin have to pose as members of Swanee and the Rooters, and there's another little bit that I think's very funny on page 42. Sing, Swanee hissed as he and Rourke swung into the chorus. Anakin began to hum the backup, and beside him, Obi-Wan joined in. Unfortunately, Obi-Wan could not manage to find the melody. Swanee shot him a horrified look.
Not so loud, he hissed. Maybe you shouldn't sing after all. That's a terrible voice. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anakin hid his smile. He was glad his master wasn't good at everything.
Oh.
So Deck of the Hutt's compound gets raided by Stryker's crew, and throughout this raid, Obi-Wan's trying to get to some data pads so he can get some information on Deck of the Hutt. However, a thermal detonator goes off, and in this process, because of all the smoke, Obi-Wan loses Anakin, and Anakin actually gets captured by Stryker's forces.
Yes, I'm sorry. I did forget that part, which is very important.
Well, you pick up from here. I'm going to go make water, so you just continue.
Perfect. Make water?
Make water, yes.
Ha. Okay, so basically, guys, listen, I took very few notes. Let's be fair and real about this. However, I can remember basically what happened. So Anakin, he's captured, and he's alive, but he dropped his lightsaber. So Obi-Wan has his lightsaber, and so then he's like, who is this Stryker? I need to see Stryker. And so when he tries to read something on the side of a building, not a building, a box or something, he says bio, pawn, tox. What could these 3 syllables mean? He doesn't know. But then, you know what? He's interrupted. And who is there? Who is there but it is Stryker himself. And who is Stryker, you might ask? The room was almost empty, except for a bare table and 1 chair. The man standing in front of him was smiling and holding out his hands. Forgive my manner of bringing you, my friend. I was impatient to see you. Anakin felt shock ripple through him. It was their greatest enemy. Granta Omega!
Oh, that blew me away when that happened.
That was truly shocking. There are 3 moments in this book that
They're truly shocking.
You could ask our friend of the show, Brooke White. I was sitting next to him reading this book, and I went, oh, shit! Or like, fuck! And listen, I'm sorry I'm swearing a lot. I'm sorry. I know, whatever. Okay. Try to clean up my language on our junior novel podcast. Anyway.
So that's shocking moment number 1. Let's see here. Where do we go? Where's the story go from there?
Well, Obi-Wan calls Yaddle, tells her that Anakin is missing, and she comes and meets him. Isn't that what happens next?
Yeah, I have a line marked here. There's very few Yaddle dialogue. Well, actually, it picks up a little at the end, but she says she hesitated for only a beat. He could only feel her concern, and then she said slowly, "Your problem, my problem. Fix each other, they might." So Yaddle is written exactly like.
So that's apparently just something that whole species does, at least in this timeline.
Yes. So her and Obi-Wan decide that in order to there's this substation for the power grid. Yaddle's trying to get the power grid back up online. Substation 32, which is controlled by Stryker's forces, who Obi-Wan doesn't know as Granta Omega, but they agree that if they can capture, or not actually capture, but disengage Substation 32 or destroy Substation 32, that they'll be able to follow Stryker's forces back to his base where they'll find Anakin.
So, none of this really matters because Stryker, a.k.a. Granto Omega, his goal is ultimately, as we know, if you remember from the previous books, Granto Omega wants to attract the attention of the Sith Lord that's out there, and we all know who that is. It's Sheev Palpatine,
legend,
a legend,
canon.
Let's stick with the legend on that one for now. I'll stick with my canon, which is the 6 movies. That's fine. Yeah. That's a character. Sidebar. You know, something that I always thought would be cool would be doing basically a miniseries adaptation of Darth Plagueis, the James Luceno novel, where Sheev is basically the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's a great book, and I was like, that would have been a cool Disney Plus show. Now I'm kind of just like, they would have to throw in some bullshit about how he learns how to survive.
Family. Oh,
all that
he's
stuff.
A kid,
and I just you know what? Leave Sheev alone. I don't need any more Sheev stuff. So anyway, moving on. Sorry.
And the worst part about it is, I know I said it on that. I would hope that Sheev had this child before he got, scarred and disfigured by the Jedi. After he's scarred and disfigured, I don't want to think about him doing that.
Listen,
anyway.
we all know Sheev fucks.
Yes. So anyway, Granto Omega has this. There's this big chapter where he's talking to Anakin.
This chapter is great.
Yeah.
Which chapter is it?
This is chapter 9. I don't have any dialogue pulled from this unless you want to read.
Well, I don't have any specific stuff noted,
okay.
But it's a great chapter because listen, like I said, his ultimate goal, he wants to attract the attention of the Sith Lord, and one of the ways he thinks he can do that is by killing a member of the Jedi Council. Okay?
Right.
So, but in the meantime, he's talking to Anakin about and trying to kind of sway him. It's an early Anakin being swayed by the dark side scene, and he's using lots of specific references to stuff that happens at the Jedi Temple that Anakin's confused by. How does he know about all this stuff? It's not that it's secret, it's just that it's so mundane that you would have to live there to understand it, Mm-hmm. So stuff about, the Room of a Thousand Fountains and
right, watching senatorial ships pull into, the restricted lane and that kind of thing. There is something that I felt was really interesting here was he tells Anakin, he was like, we could get on, a ship tonight and go to Tatooine and free the slaves. And
right.
And one of the things a question he poses to Anakin is, are you really free? You may not be a slave, but are you free as a Jedi? Kind of thing. He's putting all these thoughts into Anakin's head.
And there's an interesting thing. I guess we'll get to it later at a later development of the book, but there's this line that another character says later, which is, there's always a choice, which is, I think, interesting because the conflation by a lot of villains in Star Wars and a lot of villains in popular culture, and hey, maybe villains in real life, is this attempt to equate somebody's feeling, the restrictions they feel are in their life, equate them with literal slavery. You know what I mean? So it's this. Anakin could leave anytime he wants. This is not. He's not actually held there, held against his own will. So and it's interesting to see Anakin struggle with that because Anakin was a slave, so he has that experience. I don't know. I don't have much to say about this because I'm just processing my thoughts as I say them. Right. But I think this series has done a very nice job of dealing with that aspect of Anakin's past, which it's not always really talked about in a lot of the EU or even Clone Wars, which is often given credit for making Anakin a richer character. There's only a few episodes that really deal with his history as a slave, and I feel like this series, that's the core of it.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm. It's where a lot of his problems originate from. And I was so afraid to, not that I was afraid, but I was like, how is she going to deal with Anakin, in these books? How is the introduction? Because Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan was done so brilliantly, and how is Anakin with, knowing how Anakin's fate, how is he going to tie into this? Is he going to just be that little wizard boy from,
he's 16
Phantom Menace
by this point in this book, so it's only 3 years before Attack of the Clones. I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. And she's done such a wonderful job of dealing with like the darkness in him. Like, other thing, Clone Wars, I feel like there's moments where kind of this, his darkness comes out, especially anytime Anakin interrogates somebody, he always takes it a little step too far.
Which is definitely, listen, a lot of that stuff was written in the late 2000s. What do you think George and the writers were thinking about,
waterboarding?
Yeah.
The Bush administration?
Yes, of course. That's what I'm talking. Yes, that is what I'm referring to. I didn't feel like everybody knows.
She makes it like it's Anakin's darkness is something that he is always dealing with. These thoughts, he knows he's having dark thoughts, and he tries to push them away. And it's another moment we'll talk about this where he shouldn't be pushing away that fear and that anger. He needs to embrace it and let it go.
Yes, which someone tells him later in the book. But
yes.
Anyway, so after all this conversation, and this sets Anakin reeling, of course, Grant Omega makes it clear that he wants Yaddle to come and negotiate with him about getting off the planet. He said, "Of course, I'm willing to get off the planet. Like, I'm just a businessman. All this stuff, like." If I can find a better deal, then it'll be fine. Like he's a piece of ish. But anyway, he tells Anakin to contact Yaddle and make sure she comes alone,
right?
Not with Obi-Wan.
Right, and in the meantime of this happens, they destroy Substation 32 with Swanee and Rourke's help by flooding it, and so Yaddle gets this message, and she agrees. She agrees to go, and Obi-Wan is supposed to help the civilians get back to their homes now that power is restored, and she tells Obi-Wan that she's going alone, and this is on page 83, a little bit here. "All right," he said to Yaddle, "but tell Omega that I'll see him soon." "A threat, that is," Yaddle said sternly, "and so deliver it I will not." Obi-Wan rested his head against a wall. "Unless I have to," Yaddle concluded.
That's so hard, Yaddle. Listen, let's talk about Yaddle a little bit. There's going to be a lot of reason to talk about Yaddle going in the rest of the book, but I just want to say this is a character that has long been the subject of great fun for us and for many Star Wars fans of our ilk. Yaddle is a silly character, a meaningless character in many ways. This is, I think, maybe legitimately the only thing that has ever fleshed her out at all as a character.
I agree. I think Jude is the only person who's really done anything. I know there's been comics, Dark Horse comics back in the days, and I only know that from Google image searching Yaddle, that she's appeared in comics, but I don't think she's been any more fleshed beyond this.
So yeah,
I'll confirm that.
We'll talk more about Yaddle in a minute. But anyway, so Yaddle is sent coordinates, to track her, make sure she's alone the whole time. So she heads out, so anyway,
she meets with Omega.
Yeah. That happens right away. I couldn't remember if there was something with Obi-Wan in between.
There was a bit. This is actually kind of a long bit, but I think it's important that we do read it. Okay. We're going to read to 87 to the end of the chapter, and starting with "Your death will be painless." So, do you want to read for Omega, since you do that pretty well?
Sure. I don't remember what voice I used for him, but
it's a little more sophisticated than, say, your other villain characters. So.
All right, let's see. I'll figure it out. Okay. Your death will be painless, Master Yaddle, Omega said. I'll give you that. I'm not interested in giving you pain. Anakin will bring the news back to Obi-Wan. It will soon be known around the galaxy.
And the bioweapon, which, by the way, he has a bioweapon that he is threatening to shoot into the atmosphere that will poison everybody on the planet. Right. And So, and the bioweapon, Yaddle asked?
That's my insurance that I will get off-planet, Omega said. With my soldiers, with my equipment, with my wealth, with my records. But the one below will remain below. I will seal your legend, Master Yaddle.
The one below will remain below, ... Omega will have his revenge on Anakin as well. Anakin would have to live knowing that he caused Yaddle's death.
So what do you... Omega started. The movement was so sudden and so fast that even Anakin couldn't track it. Yaddle's lightsaber was activated without him seeing her move so much as a finger. She used it as in a surgical strike at his wrists. He did not have time to flinch, which was lucky, because she could easily have cut off his hands. Anakin felt only a flash of heat, as though he touched something hot, then pulled his hand away. The cuffs clattered to the floor. The cuffs falling. That was in his vision too. But the cuffs hadn't been on Shmi. They had nothing to do with Shmi. Obi-Wan and Yoda had been right. "Launch it!" Omega screamed, then turned to Yaddle and added, "You have just ensured the deaths of thousands."
Anakin realized in a flash that Omega must have had opened a channel on his comlink that had been the order. He had heard a rush of air in the tube. He only saw a flash of the hem of Yaddle's robe as she force jumped towards the airlift tube. She pressed the maximum eject button with the hilt of her lightsaber as she passed. She burst into the airlift tube and shot upward like a blast from a laser cannon. Omega was too stunned to move. Anakin didn't hesitate. He jumped after Yaddle into the tube, pressing the maximum eject button as well. The velocity was incredible. He shot upwards towards the surface so fast that he lost his breath and his ears protested with a scream of pain. He shot out into the night sky that glittered with stars. The lights of the city were a blur as he passed them. He started to fall back down, and the wind whistling past his ears. Only the Force saved him from an extremely bumpy landing. He called on it to slow his descent, but still he landed hard, bending his knees and rolling with impact. He lay on his back, still dizzy, trying to catch his breath. Yaddle had not landed. He felt the Force so strong that it served to yank him to his feet again. It was like a physical presence to him, and as though he could feel it on his skin and even the roots of his hair. Popcorn.
Yaddle hung above him, above the tallest building of Natan, the Force holding her temporarily aloft. She held a silver canister against her chest. She was high above, but he heard her voice clearly. It was in his head, he realized. If you lose your anger, find it you will. Embrace it, and disappear it will. Chosen you may be. But for what? Your question to answer. It is. He barely registered her words. A terrible certainty was growing. And then everything was suddenly clear to Anakin. As clear as the hard-edged stars. He realized what Yaddle was about to do. "No!" he shouted. But he could already feel it. Yaddle was drawing in the great net of the Force she had created, drawing it around her so tightly and fiercely and strongly that Anakin fell to his knees. He had never felt the Force move like this. He couldn't speak or move. From far below, Granta detonated the explosives. Anakin heard a sharp pop. Nothing more. The Force grew until Anakin was dazzled. Instead of exploding, the canister imploded, and Yaddle drew the toxic gas and the explosive power in, absorbing it into her body. Then she simply disappeared. A shower of light particles swirled, hung in the air, then evaporated. Anakin's face was wet. Tears flowed, and he did not feel them. The night sky was empty, and Jedi Master Yaddle was dead.
Oh
boy. Listen, this shocked me. And I guess I shouldn't have been shocked because Yaddle never shows up in anything else.
That episode 1, yep.
I really was not when I realized Yaddle was going to be a major player in this book. I was like, oh, this is fun. But like they figured it out. They nailed it. And there's another very emotional scene later involving another character that's on the cover of the book. And about halfway through the book, I was like, we're going to talk so much about how Yoda's on the cover of this book and not Yaddle.
I know, right?
But then by the end, it's like, okay, that makes sense, actually. Even though the cover is still bad, but, you know.
Yeah, the cover is, like, terrible.
Yeah,
let's talk about the character, the cover. Anakin looks like he has the hairiest arms. Do you see how hairy his forearm looks?
Yeah, he's got, like, AJ Soprano arms. Or Anthony Jr. at the point you're at, sorry.
Yes, it is Anthony
Spoiler.
Jr. at the point.
Spoiler, he eventually goes by AJ. You wonder how that goes over with his parents. You can only imagine.
So I'm looking at the Legends appearances of Yaddle. And she shows up in quite a few comics. Mostly comics, but the Jedi Quest is where a big bulk of this happens. But Yaddle's Tale. This is. Do you remember Star Wars Tales, the Dark Horse comics?
A delightful book, non-canon mostly at the time.
Well, there's one story that apparently is.
Some
canon.
of them are, and some of them aren't.
Yeah,
it was like
some of them aren't. Yeah, Yaddle's Tale, the one below. So we may have to look into that. It's in Star Wars Tales number 5.
That probably tells the story of when she was trapped.
Yep, it does.
So that I would like to read that. Yeah, but this
still shocking.
This death was very emotional. Listen, Jude is incredible at these scenes. Like she nails death scenes in both series so far incredibly well. They're almost always emotionally resonant, no matter how attached you may have felt to the character before the current book. You know, so. Mm-hmm. And this is a perfect example of it.
It is. And now we have the fallout of how Anakin feels about this, because this is where Obi-Wan comes, and he tells, Obi-Wan what happens, and Obi-Wan doesn't know what to say here. We figured that out later, that Obi-Wan knows that his words are kind of hollow here, but he can't find the right words to connect to Anakin like he wants to. He says, "We will mourn her, but not now. Now is the time to be a Jedi." Anakin took his lightsaber. He rose and tucked it into his belt. His master's words should have made him feel better, but they hadn't. They had almost seemed automatic, as if Obi-Wan didn't mean them. Even Obi-Wan thought Anakin was responsible for Yaddle's death. Sorrow and guilt filled him up so far that he felt like he was drowning. Then there was an explosion of light and sorrow. He had lost, in fact, everyone he loved, including Obi-Wan. The vision had been right. So Anakin's blaming himself now for Yaddle's death, which it's a little misguided. She was saving the entire planet in the process of doing it, but Anakin feels responsible because of the vision he had of the one below, and the one below remains below, and this is why he feels bad.
But she was above.
She was above. She flew way above and then exploded.
But as above, so below. Okay, so basically at this point you're like, okay, well maybe the action of the book is wrapping up, and so they call Yoda, they tell him, and he's obviously distraught, but he's coming to finish what Yaddle started.
Yep. Oh, and then also the Senate has renounced their pledge to send a security force, because they don't want to commit an army to an unstable situation. So the whole fact that Grand Omega is there, they're kind of just like, yeah, we don't want to be part of this. This is going to make us look bad. So that makes the situation even harder.
So, yeah, and, so Grand Omega is... There's a bunch of machinations here that involve the other two warlords kind of double-crossing everybody.
Yes.
We don't need to go through all the details of this, but eventually... So basically, the Hutt, what's her name?
Decca? Decca
the Hutt teams up with Grand Omega. They put their armies together, and so Yoda shows up. He mourns Yaddle. He goes to the spot where she died for a minute, sits there for a minute, and then it's like, let's go.
Nice moment. I like that moment.
A very good moment. Yoda is beautifully written in this book. But anyway, so Yoda and Obi-Wan, they figure out a plan where they're like going to reroute pipes that are flowing water into the fuel pipes for the army.
Because Deca has the transports and Grana Omega has the fuel, so he's shipping the fuel over to her via the tunnels, and if they reroute them,
basically,
if you put wastewater in the.
You fill these vehicles with wastewater, with Dave Matthews water, then it's gonna fuck up the vehicles like they. So
make everybody's day real bad.
Yeah, much like those people on the ferry under the Dave Matthews bus. Can you just imagine? No. Can you imagine just all of that, just like shit falling, and you can't do anything? You're helpless, and just the shit is falling down, and you see it like I don't know. Oh my god! Or you don't see it; it just like comes.
Yeah, it just hits you. And,
Jesus!
Sorry
to put that in our listeners' head.
That makes me think of Joe Dirt and the Boeing bomb. Do you remember the Boeing bomb?
Jesus Christ! Oh man!
See the peanut? That's the dead giveaway.
So anyway. Yeah, so they devised this plan, and the two fucks help them with it. They reroute the pipes, and it works seemingly for a minute, but then it's revealed that actually, what's her face?
Fianna,
the other warlord that seemed like the best one, she's also double-crossed everyone and teamed up with Granto Omega in order to basically help him escape. So... Mm-hmm. They're escaping, and she thinks she's going to escape with him, and Obi-Wan's chasing after them, and he knows that Grant Omega's a piece of shit, and he's not going to let her escape with him. So then there's what page is this?
This is 116, and I think I was going to read here because this is
a massive moment.
I have marked start at always have a second exit plan. Do you see that?
So yeah, like Omega's trying to escape the planet, and and basically Obi-Wan's trying to save Fianna while also trying to capture Omega. So that's what's happening. Yeah, you always have a second exit plan, Omega said as he stood inside the craft, the cockpit dome still raised. My father taught me that.
Something about the expression in Omega's face stopped Obi-Wan from moving forward. Obi-Wan would sacrifice Fianna in order to escape.
Omega would sacrifice.
Omega would sacrifice Fianna to escape. Obi-Wan knew it. Omega knew it. The only person who didn't know it was Fianna. She was still on the hull of the ship, impatiently waiting for Omega to move so she could slide into the passenger seat. Obi-Wan was also puzzled. His investigation of Omega's background, he had learned that Omega had never met his father.
Surprised? Omega said. He was almost drawling now. Wait. Surprised? Omega said. He was almost drawling now, as if he had all the time in the world. I had reasons to keep my father's identity a secret, but I think it's time I had the pleasure of telling you. I am the son of Xanatos of Telos. What the fuck?
I know, right?
This was so shocking to me. I don't know, like, listen, this moment, Yaddle's death, and even just the reveal that Grant Omega was the villain, which I guess that had happened in a couple other books, maybe I shouldn't have been shocked by that, but these two, like...
The connection.
Listen, Xanatos, when he died in the 8th book of Jedi Apprentice, I remember we talked about this, and we liked his death, we thought it was cool, but we were like, this is weird, because he's really set up as the villain. And I honestly was expecting him to be the villain through all these books, including Jedi Quest, when we started this. It was surprising to me, and like I think actually in the immediate aftermath of that, Jedi Apprentice struggled a little bit, as we've talked about. And they found their footing again in the last run of books of Jedi Apprentice is incredible. But Xanatos has always been the best, like, long-term villain they've had. So it's interesting that she maybe recognized that and wanted to return to that type of villain.
She has an heir to that villain.
Should we finish reading this scene?
We definitely could, because, like, Obi-Wan's reaction is the same as my reaction, where it's like, I didn't see this coming. So, Xanatos, Obi-Wan felt as he had been struck. The former Padawan of Qui-Gon who had turned to the dark side, Qui-Gon's greatest enemy, Obi-Wan had seen the evil that Xanatos had done. Xanatos had even invaded the temple and tried to kill Yoda.
You killed my father, Omega said. He was greater than his master, and Qui-Gon couldn't bear it. So he killed him, with your help.
He killed himself, Obi-Wan said.
He had done that himself.
That's what I was going for. That was the tone I was going for. He jumped into a toxic pool on Telos rather than be captured by Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon tried to save him.
My father never would have killed himself, Omega shouted.
You have spent your life constructing your own brand of truth, Obi-Wan said, but it's not the real truth. Granta, let me in, Fiona said, an edge of pleading to her voice. We have to get out of here. My father protected me, Omega said. He told me tales of the Jedi and the Temple and how they misunderstood the Force. A bitterness crept into his tone. He had hoped that I would inherit his gift, but he knew when I was an infant I would never be Force-sensitive. Obi-Wan saw the opening. He saw the pain in Omega. And he was disappointed, he said.
He left me his company, Omega burst out as if he were bragging. As if his father had left him something better than love, better than approval. He left me his fortune in Offworld.
Offworld was the corporation that Xanatos had formed, a mining operation that had used slaves, bribes, and violence to build its wealth. Omega didn't create his wealth out of nothing. It had started with it. Obi-Wan wanted to kick himself down the tunnel. He should have guessed. He should have known that beneath the jibes and the insults that there was something personal, something bitter in the way that Omega felt about him and the Jedi. He should have known. He had the clues. Why else would Sano Sauro pluck the promising boy away and send him to school? Sauro had hardly been the benefactor of the poor. Sauro had known Xanatos well and operated himself on Telos. And then there was the mystery of the boy's origins. Why else were the mother and son on Nearport 7, a moon that was basically a refueling stop? They were hiding, of course. Xanatos had sent them there after he died. They didn't have the resources to leave. Omega blamed Obi-Wan for his father's death. He was bitter that he did not inherit his father's gift, so he would chase the Force all over the galaxy. He would grow even wealthier than his father had been. He would prove to be a man no longer living. He would prove to a man no longer living that he was worthy. Now Obi-Wan saw Xanatos and his son, the eyes with metallic glint of blue durasteel and thick black hair. He had every clue, and he missed it.
You are just like your master, Omega sneered. My father told me about Qui-Gon, how he had him back, how he held him back. You do the same with Anakin. Control is what you seek, and you hide it behind Jedi lessons. He spat the word Jedi like a curse. Why don't you let him be himself? Why don't you show him what power he can have?
Obi-Wan didn't have to turn. The Force hummed in the tunnel. He knew Anakin was behind him. Anakin had heard everything. It ends here, Omega, Obi-Wan said.
It will never end until you are dead, Omega said. He reached out and grabbed Fiona's ankles. With a quick, powerful thrust, he threw her off the hull of the ship. Screaming, Fiona flew in midair, straight for the jagged, knife-edged rocks.
Anakin leaped. The Force added distance and precision. He caught Fiona in his arms, just millimeters away from the pointed shards, twisting in midair to land safely. Obi-Wan too leapt, trying to land on the cruiser hull, but he had to swerve to avoid Anakin, and Omega had already gunned the engine. He took off, the cockpit dome still unengaged. Obi-Wan landed badly and fell to one knee. The cockpit dome slid down. The cruiser gained speed. Omega had escaped. Again.
Oh. So.
Ooh.
Big stuff here. Obviously, we talked about the reveal, but, at the denouement, that's basically the end of the book, but the denouement involves Anakin had heard, of course, of Xanatos because of the infiltration of the temple. That's a story that had been told to him. And Obi-Wan had never talked about it that much, but it's not like he had hidden it. But Obi-Wan's like, I'll tell you all about this later. We need to finish up what's going on here. So, basically, Yoda is able to get the Hutt woman to leave the planet by essentially threatening her that they're going to set up an auxiliary Jedi temple on the planet. And so, was there a Yoda moment I wanted to read here?
Maybe because I think Yoda tries to.
Here we are. Because at the end, let's actually just read this last page and a half here, because Anakin, after everything wraps up, the mission's basically over. Anakin nodded obediently, but something in his face must have alerted Yoda, for suddenly his gray-blue gaze grew keen. "Know you do that Yaddle's death was not your fault?" he said.
"I had the vision," Anakin burst out. "I should have known."
"And Obi-Wan? And myself?" Yoda asked sharply. "Told us of the vision you did. And yet, no, we did not. Blame us as well, do you?"
"Of course not," Anakin said. "But things in the vision started to come true when I was with Omega. I should have never asked Yaddle to meet with him. I should have refused. I should have tried to escape."
"When you look back, lose your place on the path, you do." Yoda's voice gentled. "Learn you will, Anakin, that stars move and stars fall, and nothing at all do they have to do with you." Yoda walked off with his master. Anakin was grateful for his words. Why hadn't Master said them? Why hadn't his master said them, I should say? His name is not Master. Why hadn't his master said them? When he'd said that Yaddle's death was his fault, Obi-Wan had remained silent. He knew in his bones that he had caused a chain of events that led to a Jedi Master's murder. Even if that didn't make him responsible, he knew it would make it hard for him to sleep at night. The vision hadn't been wrong. The essential truth it had left him with was part of him now. He felt it inside him like a wound. It was loss. The gulf between him and Obi-Wan was wider than ever.
Ooh.
So that's the end of that. Listen, at the start of this book, I was like, ooh, cool, Yaddle. And then for the next, say, 40 pages, I was like, oh, this is pretty solid. This is solid, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, this is fine.
This is nothing out of the ordinary. This is casual, we're on the mission, we're on a planet, this is the structure of this
And then
book.
Grant Omega's revealed, and you're like, okay, so this is tying into the big story, so you're a little more, your attention hits up. And then the two big things happen, Yaddle's death, and the Grant Omega reveal to be Xanatos' son, and all that is handled so expertly by Jude. It is like this lifted from being like a middling Jude Star Wars book to an all-timer for me. This is so exciting.
This is so important to the story.
Yeah.
This has to be so important to the arc.
Yeah, it's not so much that, again, I still think, the whatever's going on the planet, I wish that tied in a little more to, the emotional stakes of the story. So it's not, I guess it's not one of the absolute best books in the series, but the stuff that works is so powerful, it's got to be a minimum of a 9 out of 10 midichlorians for me. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it 10.
Oh,
because
feel free.
because I thought the Yaddle scene was incredible, just incredible.
And just like the conception of it's not just the emotion of everything, but the conception of how she died, like, was a really exciting action sequence.
Mm-hmm. And that she saved an entire populace of an entire planet while doing it, and that's something that, like, Anakin doesn't really accept. Anakin still is kind of placing the blame on himself, but, like, Yaddle, like, is a hero. Yaddle died, and a true hero for this planet. And then, so it's like, and then after that, I was just like, there's like 20 pages of this book left. Like, are they just wrapping up? Because this feels over. And then 10 pages later, the Xanatos connection, the sins of the fathers coming back to haunt.
Classic Star Wars theme, of course.
Right? This whole thing that goes all the way back to Qui-Gon, still coming back to haunt them, that will not let them go. Incredible stuff. I'm happy this is the book that we came back on, because like you, Tim, I was really sluggish going into this, really wasn't excited coming back to this, but this book definitely was a real... I'm glad we did this and not Jedi Prince, because we would have been angry.
Listen, I think our Jedi Prince episode is going to be great. It's going to be the draft, and the Jedi Prince episodes are always fun, ultimately. Preparing for them is not fun, but the recording and the episodes themselves, I think, are a lot of fun. So... But that's better. Let's build back up to that kind of episode.
Yeah.
So, and Liz, this. I just want to say, by the way, we have been gone for a month and a half or so, and I just want to say thank you to everyone that's back here with us listening.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, you, younglings.
We I know we complain a lot about producing the show and stuff, but we really do love doing it. It's a lot of fun, and it's books like this that make it worth doing, and so thank you for listening. But
I'll say this too, because I did not. Did you read any books during the break?
I read a lot, just no Star Wars.
I stopped reading because I was working on another project, but it was something that I definitely missed. Like, I had free time, and I'm just like, what do I do with this time? Like, I would be normally reading here.
Do you want me to go over what I read over the...
Sure, why not?
Well,
people want to know.
First of all, I caught up on Spider-Man, not books, but I'm now current on what's going on in Amazing Spider-Man. I'm enjoying the current run a lot, so that's fun. I read the Daily Show oral history that came out a couple years ago. Really good. I mean, I know you and I were both big fans of that whole universe, that show, so lots of fun stories, and that also just got so mad about Iraq again. We're living through terrible times now, but we've done it before too. Great. That's a lot of fun, that book, and it's like a pretty honest book. Like, doesn't like pull punches. I don't think. But anyway, and then what else? I read something else. I read this book called Slugfest, which is about the rivalry between Marvel and DC through the years. It's a lot of good dirt in that book. A lot of fun dirt about poaching employees and all kinds of crazy stuff. So, very fun stuff. I didn't read any great literature, which I feel bad about. But, it's... I should have maybe read a novel or something. That passed me by. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to touching in with Star Wars again on a regular basis. And... I will give my Clone Wars reports spoiler-free for the fans that might be wondering, do you want something us to touch on?
Yeah, we got to have some sort of coverage of this. I apologize to the listeners. Yeah. I won't be there.
It's fine. It's fine. They'll deal. So anyway, what's the next book called? I don't have a copy of it because it literally is selling. Guys, I want to point this out. The next book, if you are buying these books... Book 7 is selling for like $20 to $40 everywhere I find. I'm just not willing to pay that. So thankfully, it's available digitally as an ebook. So that's how I'm going to read it. And I'm going to get it through the library, of course. But so just a heads up on that. If you are reading along, and I imagine most of our listeners probably have these books or have access to them. But if you don't. Just a heads up, that one runs a lot of money.
Yeah, I have a copy of this book. I don't remember where I got it or how much I got it.
You probably just found it at a thrift store.
But when I pulled the book off the shelf, it was literally a piece of notebook paper that was ripped, and it had a price written on it, and it said $9.99. I really don't think I spent that much on this book, but who knows? But this book Book 7 is The Moment of Truth.
The Moment of Truth, yeah.
Which has a hilarious reactions of Obi-Wan and Anakin staring at something frightening, apparently.
Very exciting. But listen, after this one, I'm stoked. We've only got a few books in this series left.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna run. I want to just quick run through. I don't have these dates in front of me, but the order of the next several weeks that we're doing. We're gonna do book 7 and 8 next week and the following week of Jedi Quest. Then we're gonna do Jedi Prince 3, Zorba the Hutt's Revenge. Then we're going to return, of course, to Jedi Quest and do 9 and 10.
Yep.
And then I was we'll have to figure out whether we're going to do some sort of wrap-up show or...
Ooh, I got it. Okay. We should do... I don't want to say we should do a wrap-up after we do the 2 hardcovers, Legacy of the Jedi and Secrets of the Jedi.
Yeah.
However, there's 6 Boba Fett books. So we could do 3 Boba Fett books, do Secrets, Legends of the Jedi, and then do the next 3 Boba Fett books, and then do Secrets of the Jedi, and then go into Last of the Jedi.
That's not bad. We are going to finalize this. We'll announce some sort of final schedule in the next couple weeks. But yeah, that's not bad. Some version of that, anyway.
Yeah.
Breaking it up that way. Because we're definitely doing the Boba Fett books. And listen, guys, like we said, we're definitely, obviously, finishing Jedi Quest. We're going to do the Boba Fett books. We're going to do Last of the Jedi. And we're going to try to finish Jedi Prince and Galaxy of Fear and do Young Jedi Knights. That's all we are committing to. There's other books that we're going to try to drop in there and stuff, but that's all, that's going to be ultimately the bulk of what this show is. There's not a lot beyond that. So, just a heads up, we've got at least about a year of shows left. So, enjoy it. But and also just a heads up, a hint towards something in my future, not your future necessarily. Although you're welcome to be a guest on the show.
All right.
Me and friend of the show Brooke are developing a Planet of the Apes podcast.
Ooh.
So that's not going to launch for quite a while, and that will not be a weekly show. Because I don't want to take too much away from this show. I'm reasonable, but that's going to be just for me and Brooke. But if you're a Planet of the Apes fan, get excited. It's going to be the most comprehensive Apes podcast you can imagine.
While we were on the break, I caught Beneath Planet of the Apes on TCM.
I saw you gave it 5 stars, which I thought was fascinating. Because
I had a blast watching it.
I have a great time with it. Yes,
5 was probably a little high, but I was definitely having fun.
We're going to end the show on a brief Apes discussion. Listen, Beneath, I think the second half of Beneath is the easiest 5 stars of my life.
Yes.
All the bomb cult stuff is so good. The ending is so hard. It's the hardest ending I could even imagine. The first half is kind of just a weak remake of the first movie with James Franciscus, of all people. And you might be able to live with Franciscus if you don't get the real deal, Charlton Heston, later in the movie. But, you know what I mean? But it's
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I came in as the movie, a little ways into the movie. I didn't catch the beginning of the movie. And I thought it was I thought it was the first one for 20 minutes until I realized, oh wait, that is not Charlton Heston.
No, that's James Franciscus. Jesus. So yeah, that show is going to be an all-media Apes show. We're going to start with the Pierre Boulle novel, and we're going to move through the entire franchise. Movies, comics, cartoons, TV, everything. That's the idea. So it'll take us the rest of our lives, and it'll just be a fun time. And we're going to do I'm going to do lots of research, and there's going to be... I think that it'll be a very different kind of show than this one. But... look out for that, maybe launching sometime later this year. So, There
Does
we
that have
go.
a title yet? Does that have a
No,
okay.
it's in deep development stages right now. So, but we've been talking very seriously about it. It's going to happen. And maybe we'll drop like a preview episode on our feed or something. But that's the most I'll do with this show. I don't want to co-opt our show, but you know what I mean. We've got enough room for a preview on our feed. So,
yes.
Anyway, why did I bring that up? I want to make myself committed to it. That's why.
There you go. You're committed now.
Now a bunch of people know that that's the plan, so we basically have to do it. And Brooke will appreciate that because he's been on me about it. So, anyway, this has been a lot of fun. I think this is a good comeback episode.
I'm glad we're back.
So yeah, join us next week for the moment of truth, and until the books are due back.
The library is closed.
Let you do it this time.
Damn. All right. Bye.
Bye. Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by the Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Copyright 2020, Tim May and Levi Peretic. All rights reserved.